Welcome to the 2013 Calabasas City Council Candidate Forum, a joint presentation of the City of Calabasas and the Center for Governmental Studies. I'm Betsy Rosenfeld, Project Director for the Center for Governmental Studies, and joining me in moderating tonight's event is journalist Pablo Pereira.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight, and as we always do at this time, let's all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Lead it right here. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Center for Governmental Studies is pleased to return to Calabasas to present a candidate forum for the voters, much as we have done for the past two Calabasas municipal elections. The Center is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization founded in 1983 in the city of Los Angeles with the goal of helping people participate more effectively in their communities and their governments. We are here to help increase election awareness and participation among Calabasas voters and hopefully increase voter turnout on March 5th. This evening we will be talking with four candidates who are running for 3 open city council seats and who will take this opportunity to explain why they deserve your vote on March 5th. The candidates will discuss a number of issues important to Calabasas residents, ranging from the environment to the economy.
Before discussing the format and ground rules, we'd like to welcome the 4 city council candidates joining us tonight. They are seated to my left in no particular order other than determined by a random drawing that we conducted just a few minutes ago. They are James Bazagian, David Shapiro, Mary Sue Maurer, and Jody Thomas. Thanks for all of you for being with us tonight.
Pablo and I would also like to thank everyone here who has joined us in Founders Hall, as well as those watching on CTV and online. In a few moments, each candidate will be given 1 minute to introduce themselves and their platforms. Pablo will then present the panel with the first question. Each candidate will be given 1 minute to respond to that question. After the final candidate has responded to a question, we will then open up the floor for candidates to engage in a 3-minute discussion on the question. Please note that nearly every question asked tonight was submitted by Calabasas voters. The rest were formulated at the Center for Governmental Studies. And at the conclusion of the forum, each candidate will be given 2 minutes to give a closing statement. All of the candidates have been given the forum ground rules before appearing in this evening's and have agreed to avoid excessive cross-talking and interruption of other candidates. We hope the discussion following each question will be open, spirited, and free-flowing, and we, the moderators, will only step in if absolutely necessary.
Thanks, Betsy. We hope that programs like this one will encourage you, the voters, and people at home, our local citizens, to get out and vote on March 5th. Audience, we ask that you please hold your applause or other auditory signs of support or signs until the end of tonight's forum. Candidates, I will be calling you by your first names tonight once the line of questioning begins, and when your time is up, I'm simply just going to say thank you, move on to the next candidate. Simply put, that's your cue to stop talking or at least finish your last sentence. With that said, it's time to move on to the opening statements. Each candidate will have 1 minute, and we begin tonight with James Bazagian.
I'll go very quickly. Thank you. I was raised locally, graduated from Taft High School in Woodland Hills, attended UCLA where I received a Bachelor of Arts degree in history, went on to USC Law School, and after graduating there, became a deputy district attorney with Los Angeles County, and I've been a prosecutor for the last 23 years. I've served for 20 years on the board of directors of the Los Angeles County Association of Deputy District Attorneys, the largest local organization of prosecutors in the country. I served as its president in 1996 and 1997. My activity in Calabasas municipal government started in 1993 when the City Council appointed me to the Community Policing Commission. I served 2 terms on that commission until 1997 when I was elected to an open seat on the City Council. I've served 4 terms on the City Council and also 4 terms as mayor, including most recently last year. I look forward to this debate and discussing what I've done for the city, what I plan to do if reelected. Thank you.
Thanks, James. David.
Thank you. I and my family moved here in 1994. We have 3 children who have all attended the Calabasas public schools. One of the main reasons we moved here, like so many in Calabasas, is for our top schools and the great quality of life that we have. I also moved my business here in 1994 as well to be closer to my family, be able to volunteer in my community as well. Being a small business owner, I know what it takes and I know what it is to go through and keep a budget. I know how hard times have been for the past number of years. My past 19 years in the city have been continuous volunteering, continuous giving of myself solely for the betterment of the community. The past 19 years, from youth to seniors, I have coached 100 teams. I am currently on the senior task force. The past year as a city council member, I believe I've been well prepared, active, and an asset to the council. I look forward to continuing that.
David, thank you. Mary Sue.
Yes, I wanted to start off by thanking the Center for Governmental Affairs for providing this service to our community. I am currently the mayor of the city of Calabasas. I've served for the past 8 years. I am a government and economics teacher at the Westmark School, a college prep special ed school. I've worked in the private sector at the Walt Disney Company and Blue Shield of California, and in the public sector, both with the State Assembly and the Department of Insurance. I have 3 boys at Calabasas High School, USC, and the Westmark School. And I look forward to talking about how through these past 8 years, the reputation of Calabasas as one of the finest cities in the state of California has absolutely grown. In particular, this last couple years where we weathered the turbulent economic times to provide high-quality service. Thank you.
Thank you. Jody?
Good evening. While I am the lone challenger in this race, I am an Emmy Award winner, a small business owner, and most importantly, a resident with more than 20 years of experience in participating in city issues from the other side of the dais. My experience and my community involvement in our schools has earned me the support of our esteemed Senator Fran Pavley, our own council member Lucy Martin, Honorable County Supervisor Linda Parks, and numerous commissioners and HOA members as well. I've been walking the walk in efforts to preserve our open space and protect our environment for years, earning me the support of Save Open Space, the Topanga Association for a Scenic Community, and the Cornell Preservation Organization. I got the official letter today that I'm supported by the LA County firefighters, our city's first responders, and most importantly, I've been the voice of the people and the voice of the residents. I vow to represent all of the residents of our city, and tonight you'll see that I can bring a different perspective to our city council. Thank you.
All right, thanks very much, Jody. We're going to begin with question 1, and again, these questions were submitted by all of you and our residents. Question 1, name 2 of your greatest accomplishments in effectuating meaningful change in our community, and describe why these accomplishments provide you with an advantage over the other candidates in producing effective change in the future. And if any of you want me to repeat that, I'm glad to do it. James.
Me, okay. If I had to pick 2 just off the top of my head, 2 of the memorable ones, one is the Calabasas Park Center. When I first was elected to the City Council in 1997, the city was in considerable turmoil over what the future of the Calabasas Park Center was going to be. Calabasas Park Homeowners Association, the largest HOA in the city, 40% of the city's population, was suing the city and was fighting against the development agreement that the city was poised to accept and entitle. Working together with the community through workshops, within 1 year, we had turned everything around. We had the full support of CPHA and the rest of the community. We divided the parcel into 4 pieces: the office building, the Commons, which was opened in 1998, the Calabasas Civic Center, which was built and completed finally in 2008, and the hotel site. The second one is the way the community worked together with the council to preserve Amundsen Ranch.
Thank you. David, same question.
Thank you. The first thing I would bring up is the fact when I was served on the Park and Recreation Commission, I spearheaded the joint use agreement, which is now currently in effect between the City of Calabasas and the LVUSD. That agreement allows for the city to maintain top or very good and increased sports fields at our facilities, and at the time it was entered into, it allowed for us to maintain and preserve our open space in the community. That's something that I'm very proud of, and I hope it will continue, and I hope we will be able to work, I will be able to work with other agencies to bring other joint use agreements forward. The other thing that I'd say I'm most proud of is my work on budgets. I've worked on budgets. I've been a fiscal watchdog for various organizations. CPHA, I served for 8 years. The Community Center Board, I've served for over 11 years, and on the council this past year as well.
Mary Sue.
Okay. Two of my greatest accomplishments that have had an impact on the community as a whole, one is in the area of education, when after a couple unfortunate accidents with my children and doing some research, I learned that we only had one school nurse in the entire school district of 12,000 children. And I started collecting anecdotal stories from other parents who had similar mishaps with their children. And I convinced the school district to do a health needs assessment to see what kind of problems really were at the bottom of having only one nurse. And through this needs assessment, the recommendation came forward that there be a second nurse to develop protocol and procedures at all the schools throughout the entire Las Virgenes Unified School District. My second accomplishment is in public safety, and it's more recent. I toured the Lost Hills Sheriff Station before I was elected and noticed there wasn't a comfort room for victims, women victims, and children in protective custody. And through working with the officers, I was able to have a room designated, and they have used it numerous times, and it has a very positive impact for victims.
Jody?
Well, I've been active in our community for many years. Two of my most recent accomplishments, of which I'm very proud, is as serving as president of the Old Topanga Homeowners Association and acting as the voice of the residents in being instrumental in saving the taxpayers millions of dollars on an unnecessary sewer expansion. It also was the effect of that was preserving the open space in our scenic corridor and our rural communities. I'm also proud of the fact that I have authored and initiated the Calabasas Citizens for the Right to Vote initiative. This is an initiative that will assure that in the future, any time a vacancy becomes available on our city council, that the voters will have the right to choose our own elected officials. Thank you.
So now that we've gone through, everyone had a chance, we're going to do an open discussion, and you can see our timers in the front. We'll give you time cues. Anyone can jump in.
And this is to add
This is
additional
a discussion
information?
among all of you of what was just discussed.
Okay. Well, I think if we were to continue our greatest accomplishments that had community-wide support, not just in our neighborhoods, but throughout the entire city of Calabasas, I would be happy to add another one, and that is the building of A.C. Stell Middle School. I worked on a 3-year campaign, co-founded an organization of parents called Middle School Now, to effectively lobby in front of the school district that that was the best site to build a school. And it has turned out to be a gem in the city of Calabasas.
And if I can add along those same lines, one of my biggest accomplishments, I feel, is 14 years of coaching our youth in various sports. What I got out of it is so much more than I put in to it throughout these years. It was incredible, and also being part of the senior task force this year is an incredible opportunity as well to build the senior center right behind us here.
Well, as long as we're tooting our own horns, I'll jump in. I've been volunteering with an organization called United in Harmony for more than 10 years, and we work with high school aged kids, many from Calabasas High and also from Agora and around LA, and we do outdoor education, camping, and mentoring programs from homeless children from all throughout LA. And this is something I'm very proud of. The way community service is shaping our high school teenagers to be better citizens and carry their experiences on through adulthood is something I'm very proud of. It's something I've been active in for many years and will continue for many years.
And I'd expand upon my previous comments by pointing to the Civic Center. You know, this Civic Center was a huge undertaking. It was a decision the council made back in 1999 to buy this land, and we actually did something that many cities don't do. We took our time, we had community forums, we went up to Sacramento, and we made sure that we got the necessary funding. We got an $8.2 million grant to help build the library portion of the community center, of the Civic Center. And we've taken a lot of public input, and it's really, a lot of people feel a part of the Civic Center for that very reason. We're now looking at building a senior center as a third component of the Civic Center, and I think it's going to be a marvelous addition. So I would stress that the level of community input that the city has undertaken in its endeavors, particularly in the Civic Center, and taking our time so that we can have good financing and something that everybody can appreciate, is something that's going to be a permanent asset to the city.
And I'll
Got 15 seconds.
address quickly the right to vote, which was brought up by by Jody here. That my belief is clearly that we elect our council people in the city. They have the right to choose, and a cost of $47,000 to the community for a very short period of time does not make fiscal sense.
Thank you, David. All right, we'll move on to question 2, followed by another spirited discussion. There are a lot of competing interests when it comes to budget allocations. Do you feel that Calabasas has struck the right balance when it comes to managing its resources, including the size of city staff? And we're going to begin with David.
Thank you very much. I think our city is in amazing shape. I give great credit to our city manager, our CEO and CFO of the city, as well as the council, for being very prudent, very responsible, and watching over our budget. Our budget at this point exceeds any budget in our general area. Our reserves at this point are 94%. That exceeds any city, any neighboring city in our community. We are very responsible. I think our city in general and the community, part of the reason we live here and all love it, is the services that are provided. We have amazing opportunities for our community to come enjoy, whether it's the 4th of July, the Pumpkin Festival, our top-notch staff, whether it's paving roads so there are no potholes. I believe we have an excellent staff and a great city.
Thank you. Mary Sue.
I think budget allocation, particularly during a turbulent economic time that we just had, is one of the challenges of being a council member, and my business background has helped me set the priorities. But more than that, it's hearing from the public. I think that the public determines the needs of the city. And a good example of that, and what we're looking forward to right now, is the organized seniors in our community who came forcefully to the council and said, we really aren't getting the services that we pay taxes for and that we need and that we want. And so it went through a process of developing additional social and recreational programs for them, to the point where we are now, where we have a senior task force, and we're embarking on building a senior center. But that's a good example of budget allocation based on the needs of the community.
Thank you. Jody.
We are very fortunate to live in a city with good financial resources, but it's equally as important that we don't get overconfident and we are vigilant in our spending. I am a small business owner, and the past few years have been difficult on many of us. The city has a utility tax that every resident and every owner, business owner must comply with, and it can be stressful in these times. I was also a single mom for many years, and I'm well versed in budgeting and living within our means. I don't have all the answers, but I do want to explore options and start the conversation of making sure that we are living within our means and that we are planning financially for the future. I want to open up our fiscal transparency, and so that residents can clearly and simply see how their money is being spent. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. James?
We've managed to maintain a very fiscally conservative policy with regard to our budget. We have an $18 million unrestricted general fund reserve. That's an excellent number when you consider our annual budget expenditures are about $20 million. We have a 2-year budget cycle, which means that the council every year discusses 2 years forward. It's very forward thinking so that you can plan out for the long term. Back when there wasn't a recession, if any of us can remember those years, we actually stowed away money. And a lot of people asked us why we did store the money away and why we save for a rainy day. It's because of years like this where we're not going to make as much money off of tax revenues. And for that very reason, the planning that we underwent, we're in very good financial shape. We have a large city staff, larger than most cities our size, but there's a reason for that. That's because we have a lot of enterprises that the city has that other cities don't have.
All right, thank you. We're going to open this up to the candidates for 3 minutes of discussion amongst yourselves.
Well, let me start because I want to finish my thought on why we have a large staff. And by the way, we have a hiring freeze right now, and our staff has gotten one small pay raise in the last 4 years. Those were necessary measures. The reason why we have such a large staff, comparatively speaking, we have a tennis and swim center. That staff, that's fully self-funded, and it doesn't take any money from the city's budget. Those are city staff members. We seceded from the county library system, one of the wisest decisions we ever made. Every dollar of property tax money that goes into the library system, before, 50 cents went downtown, now all of it stays here. But our library staff counts as city staff. We have a preschool. Those preschool teachers and others, they count as city staff. So when you talk about having a lot of staff members, we do, but there's reasons why, and they bring in extra revenue to cover their expenses. That being said, we've never had to lay anyone off. We've never had to fire anyone for budgetary reasons, I should add. And I hope to keep it that way. That's why we get good staff, because they want to come here, and the city has a good reputation statewide.
I think it's always important to take a fresh look at our financial situation and to constantly look for options and ways that we can be more prudent in our spending. It's something every household has to do. It's something every small business has to do. We have a community development director that makes more than the governor of California. And is that the most prudent way to spend our money? Maybe it is, but at least it's worth looking at where our money is being spent. I'd like to go back also to the cost of the election that was given $47,000 for the right to vote. Democracy is not free, but $47,000 is a complete misrepresentation. We could have piggybacked on the June primary for $5,000. And I just wanted to clear that up.
Can I add that there was, it was implied that perhaps our finances aren't transparent enough, and I will note that for 7 years in a year, we have won an award for financial reporting achievement from the Government Finance Officers Association. That isn't because we've had poor accounting. And we've also maintained Moody's and Standard & Poor's top rating, credit rating. Both of those achievements come from the due diligence and the fiduciary work of our staff and this council.
As far as the budget goes, a wise person told me once that the budget is a plan and plans change. So as council members, we are responsible to watch over that budget and carefully scrutinize all expenditures, watch over the revenues. That has been done exceptionally well.
Thank you, David. We're going to move on to question number 3. Some of you covered this in your opening statements, but you can continue to talk about it if you like. Tell us about who is supporting you and why you feel you have secured those endorsements. And we're going to begin with Mary Sue.
I also am supported by Assemblymember Fran Pavley, and it's because of the work I've done both in the community as her deputy and my work on the council. She introduced me at the State of the City last week and spoke very highly of my accomplishments. I also have the endorsement of all 5 current school board members. I have the endorsement of the former superintendent, Dr. Don Zimring, who could not endorse while he was superintendent. I also have the endorsement of the Calabasas Park Homeowners Association and the Saratoga Ranch Homeowners Association. I have the endorsement of many, many commissioners and community leaders who have worked with me before and would like to see me reelected.
All right, thank you. Jody?
Well, like I said before, I have the support of State Senator, not Assembly Person, Fran Pavley. And she doesn't give out her endorsements lightly. And Mary Sue has worked with her for many years, and Fran has also known me as an active member of the community, someone who has always spoken up to protect the unique character of my community, and as well as my volunteer work within the schools. My daughter also went all through the Calabasas public schools. I was an active volunteer as well as a single mom throughout her whole career. And I've also got the support, like I said, of Councilmember Lucy Martin, the County Supervisor of Ventura, Linda Parks. I'm most proud, again, also of Fran Pavley, but also our first responders, the LA County firefighters, because they know I've done a lot of work with emergency preparedness and training, and that's something I look forward to enhancing our own city's program.
James.
You know, I'm actually most proud of the individual endorsements I have from citizens who don't have any titles or anything, just people in the last 16 years whose lives I've affected positively enough for them to come forward and be willing to endorse me, to give me their name for, some of them give me their lawns for my yard signs. I'm very proud of that, and that makes me more proud than the other official endorsements I have. I have endorsements from all 5 Las Virgenes Unified School District board members, water board members, 3 former school board members, the entire founding city council members and past city council members. I have endorsements from city council members throughout the region, from Malibu to Westlake Village to Agoura Hills to Hidden Hills to Los Angeles. I have the Firefighters Union, I have CPHA, I have Saratoga Ranch, and of course I have the Prosecutors Union, of which I'm a board member. I kind of strong-arm that one. But seriously.
You. David?
Thank you. Like James, I also have a number of just regular members of the community. A lot of the parents and families of children who I've met or coached or volunteered or worked with or acted as a teen court judge while they served on the jury, getting to meet lots of people through 19 years of being out and about in the community. I also have formal endorsements by most all of the PFC presidents, 4 of the 5 school board members, the Calabasas Park Homeowners Association, many commissioners who volunteer and give of their time for everyone in the entire community. I also have prior mayors and council members who have endorsed me, as well as mayors and officials outside of our local area. The members of the Talbot Foundation, Team Matthew has endorsed me. That's one of my proudest endorsements. Jose and Matthew are amazing, and the entire Savvy Senior Board. So those are my most proud endorsements.
Thank you, David. All right, candidates, we're going to open up this question for you to discuss for 3 minutes.
Well, I think we all have a lot of amazing residents in our endorsement list, and if it weren't for the fact that we've been involved in our communities, we wouldn't have the community support we do, and that's what makes our city great. That's what makes our city unique. And to be a council member, it's your honor and your duty to represent all of the residents from throughout the city, no matter what economic means they may come from. And I feel very honored that I have stood up and spoken up on behalf of the residents of this city, when many times they themselves were afraid to speak up because they feel disenfranchised or in fear of speaking up. So I'm thankful to be a resident here with such endorsements. There's no political gain, by endorsing a resident or a challenger, but I'm thankful to have earned the support and the respect that I have earned based on my experience as a voice of the people.
I would encourage anyone watching this program to go on each one of our websites. You can get to their links at thecityofcalabasas.com and take a close look at where our endorsements come from, what parts of the city. And I think that the vaster the area that the endorsements cover, it demonstrates activism in all parts of the community. And if I, for serving for 8 years, did not have as many as I do, then that would be an indication that maybe I have not been representing people and I have not been listening, but that's not the case.
And since you brought that up, I'll add, I don't think the website has mine, so I'll say it's shapiroforcalabasas.com, and please take a look at that website. You can see a partial list of those who've endorsed me. Some of the people who've endorsed me or tell me they're supporting me may not even be Calabasas residents. They work here, I see them on a daily basis, and they're issuing their support. They say hello, I know them, I know what they do, I care about them, and I do care about the community as well.
It's been my experience, and I did hear Jody say this, so I did have to respond. I mean, it's not been my experience that people are afraid to say how they feel. If you watch any city council meeting, particularly the public comment portion, my God, very few people are afraid to come forward and say what they feel. Nothing is left unsaid. So I must disagree with that. And if they do, I strongly encourage them to come and let us know how they feel, because there's no repercussions for doing that.
Well, that is not true, because there have been repercussions, and they're not telling you, James, because you're a council member. But I'm a resident, and I'm someone they can trust. When the city was heavy-handed with 86-year-old resident in the Bird Streets, when she was threatened with having her water turned off, there were 3 council members who lived in her community, and she reached out to me to help.
Thank you, Jody. And feel free in the next round of discussion to bring up something that you didn't get in this discussion as well. All right, we're going to move on to question 4. There have been some concerns about the way in which public comment is obtained during city council meetings. How do you feel about its current state, and what would you do, if anything, to change how public comments are handled? We're going to begin with Jody.
We've been through a lot with public comment. It's our First Amendment right to come forward and speak our mind and to voice our concerns in what we hope is a civil and polite manner. But sometimes democracy is messy. Sometimes people's voices aren't exactly what we may want to hear. But this is the way democracy works, and I think it's important that we embrace the voice of the people, even if we disagree personally. And when you fight it and get agitated and get all worked up, you're feeding a frenzy of negativity. And I prefer to embrace it, say thanks for coming and sharing that nugget of wisdom, and that's something that I hope we can foster and really appreciate the voice and welcome everyone, no matter where they live, to come and speak in the city of Calabasas.
Thank you, Jody. James?
Well, first of all, I get asked this question a lot. How comes the council allows people from outside the city to come and talk about extraneous issues or offer their opinions? And it is a constitutional issue. By law, by constitutional law, we can't restrict who comes to the council during public comment. You're free to come whether you live in the city, whether you don't live in the city, whether you're talking about a city-related issue, or whether you're talking about some other issue. And I wouldn't change that, because that's part of our public process. Also, I don't mind so much the passion that's put behind some of the public commentary. I definitely understand why people get worked up. The point I would make to those people, though, is that if you're trying to affect change and trying to persuade a council member who's sitting there listening to your concerns, the way to do it is through at least constructive criticism, if you're going to criticize, and not simply to criticize for the sake of criticizing and engage in name-calling. It really doesn't help the situation.
David?
Also, I agree that the First Amendment right is vital and important, and public comment as we have it it works fine. It works fine with the exception, as far as I'm concerned, of the, I'll call it, and it was brought up by Jody, the negativity. I think that negativity has its place. People can be angry. People can give their strong opinions as to items. Personal attacks and vendettas, things like that come out, serve no purpose except a purpose that's not beneficial to the entirety of the community. I think as far as our protocols go, I think allowing public comment is necessary. I think anyone outside of our community who comes in is entitled to speak as well. They're certainly entitled to speak their mind. It's been recommended that they be put at the end of the calendar, and I don't, or the agenda. I don't think that's appropriate at this point.
David, thank you. Mary Sue?
As a government teacher, I spend quite a bit of time emphasizing the importance of the First Amendment to my students, and I feel strongly on on the council as well. In fact, I was the only council member to support allowing individuals during public comment to show slideshows, submit them in but my colleagues did not support that. That said, I've also been escorted to my car by law enforcement after some very heated charges against staff and against council, which maybe that individual wouldn't be the one that would come after me, but they certainly create a frenzy in the community. But still, it's part of the American process. It's part of our democracy, and the part that I'm disappointed is because we can't respond when there are personal attacks on staff and individuals, false accusations. That's frustrating, but it's part of the process.
Mary Sue, thank you. Again, candidates, we're going to open up this particular topic to 3 minutes of discussion amongst yourselves, or you can revisit former topics.
One of the things that I didn't get a chance to point out, one of the things that's happened for the first time when I was mayor in 2011 that I'm very proud of, and the council has continued it in 2012, and I hope will continue it afterwards, is the budget process. I was the first mayor to bring the budget into the public eye, meaning that instead of having a workshop in a room around a conference table, we actually had a town hall where we had it in the council chambers. It was televised. We took public comment, and we interacted with the public about our budget. And I think that's a very important thing because not too many communities do that, and I think it helped us to prioritize what the community felt was important in the budget. So as far as public comment, I'm very much pro public comment. I would concur, though, that we have from time to time received threatening comments, both on screen and off, and I think that's very destructive behavior and it just doesn't contribute to anything.
I'd like to say that it's sometimes people just want to be heard, and they want to have a format and feel as though their voice matters. And I know in the past in the city that hasn't always been the case. And I'd like to give residents of the community more opportunity to voice their concerns. And instead of, or similar to a town hall format, I'd like to create something I want to call the Calabasas Cafe. And maybe it's in a setting like this in Founders Hall where residents can come in an informal atmosphere and have coffee and discuss their concerns with either members of council or members of staff without the fear of judgment or the lights flashing or the timer going. And I think more opportunity for residents' voices to be heard is an important and vital part of our community encouraging involvement in our local government.
I would just add that once elected, try going grocery shopping. You'll get plenty of feedback from the shoppers wherever you go. You don't have to set up a special coffee time. It's actually one of the pleasures.
And I'd echo those sentiments. For 19 years being in the community, people have talked to me about all aspects of the community. In the past year serving on council, I've gotten, I won't say bombarded, but stopped every step of the way. If I go to the Commons, it is a 3-hour breakfast versus a 1 hour, and it's a pleasure. But people have no problem speaking their mind. And since I've been on council, I've tried to reach out to those people I wasn't familiar with or I knew were having some difficulties. One of my first meetings, second meeting actually as a council member, was with you, Jody, and hearing some of the concerns that you had. It was important to hear those.
Candidates, thank you. We're going to move on to question number 5. It's a lengthy question. All of the questions that were submitted for this forum could not be included. But some of the issues that came up were special elections, leaf blowers, utility user tax, future uses for De Anza Park, candidate support for secession of parts of the city and term limits. If elected, you will have to prioritize among constituents' requests. What do you think the issues facing Calabasas are, and how would you prioritize them? And we're going to start with James.
I think the number one priority is budget. And I say that because financially, when 4 years ago when I was at a forum, we had just started a recession, and we all thought, okay, well, we'll weather through this storm. It'll last a year or two, and we'll be back on good financial footing nationally and statewide. I'm not so sure that's going to happen. So what we have to look at is long-term planning for some very lean years. And whatever council you elect is going to have to understand that and act accordingly. And as I stated at the beginning, I've had experience with this. I've dealt with many, many budgets, and I've been on the council during good years and during bad years. So I think that the number one priority is maximizing public services with a minimal amount of resources, and not taking for granted that we're going to have increased revenues, but understanding that they may stay the same or even decrease.
Thank you. David?
I think there's two things that are vital in the coming years. The first, as mentioned, is the budget. Right now, 1/3 of our city's approximate $20 million in general fund comes from sales tax, and 1/3 of that sales tax comes from one area of our community, that's new car sales. I think in the coming years, in addition to being very careful watchdogs of the budget and scrutinizing expenditures, we also have to increase our revenue. A revenue stream, we have a small business community. We need to support that along with the Chamber of Commerce in Calabasas. I think that's very, very important. The other issue that I think is vital is the reason I mentioned many of us moved here and maintain residence here is for the top-notch schools, keeping our schools at their highest level possible, helping in any way we can to better the schools for our children and our children's children. And for those of us who don't have children, by maintaining high educational standards, top schools, we also maintain the high values of our homes.
Mary Sue?
I would agree that maintaining our fiscally conservative policies is a top priority so that we can ensure that we can deliver services, both the routine operational type services as well as discretionary services like a new senior center. My priorities I see are in fact keeping our schools as high-ranking as possible. It not only helps the community, the youth, but it also maintains our property values. Another priority would be our seniors, not only building a senior center for them to socialize in, but looking closely at this aging population. We are a young city. We're 22 years old, and the founders of this city are now the retired baby boomers, and I want to make sure that they can age in place here in Calabasas.
Jody?
Obviously, in the years ahead, we need to support all aspects of our community. We need to support our seniors, and I want to make it clear I am very supportive of the Senior Center located right here behind Founders Hall. The seniors spoke. They made it very clear that this is where they want their senior center, and it is important that we use our resources to make that happen for them. I also believe it's important to listen to, acknowledge, and respect the voice of the residents. We could have saved this city hundreds of thousands of dollars if we'd had paid attention to what the residents wanted before we spent a lot of money on projects like the water park that the city wanted to put in on the west side, or the sewer expansion. I also want to support the schools and go above and beyond, look for creative ways to go beyond how we already support the schools. And I think to support our businesses, we need to actively engage in a buy local campaign. Buy Calabasas, dine Calabasas, fuel up in Calabasas.
Thank you, Jody. Again, candidates, we're going to open this up for 3 minutes of questions, discussions amongst yourselves. And as part of that question, there were a number of issues that I mentioned in the question that didn't get in tonight's questions.
Well, I want to clear.
And so if you'd like to talk about that.
Yeah, I want to clear up a couple things that were mentioned. The water park, for example, it was wasteful. That's why it was a 3-2 vote of the council. The only council members remaining on the council who voted on that were myself and Mary Sue Maurer, and we both voted no. So you can bring it up if you're running against another council, but as far as the current council, the only ones on the council now are people who voted against it. Same thing with the sewer expansion. I voted no, Mary Sue Maurer voted no, and no one else was on the council at the time. The first thing I did in 2011 when I was mayor, the very first meeting, and Jody was there and she spoke about it as well, was to agendize terminating the study and saving the money what we could that hadn't been spent on it. And that passed unanimously 5-0. So I understand the frustration with those wastes, and I agree they were wasteful, but it's not the current council that did those actions.
Thank you for doing that, James.
You're very welcome.
Finally.
We still have more time.
Well,
I use my time.
I would just add that there was a comment that we should do more for schools, and I think we should be, I agree with that, but I have a long list of things that we do for our schools that I'm very proud of. And it's everything from a shuttle service to provide our students rides to their campuses to try and alleviate school congestion. We have a special deputy that we've hired specifically for our Calabasas schools. The high school he spends a lot of time at, but tours all the different schools. We have provided a substantial amount of money to the brand new Calabasas High School Performing Arts Theater Center. We provide 2 different types of grants to our schools, the elementary, the middle, and the high school, including a Title I type of grant. We provide crossing guards for our schools. The other cities around this community don't do everything that we do, and the list goes on and on. So I'm very proud of the way we support our schools and look forward to working more collaboratively with them.
I'm not suggesting that we don't do a lot for our schools, because we absolutely do. And without a doubt, we do more than most cities. But the school bond didn't pass, and the schools are in more dire straits than they ever have been. And we can think of creative ways to incentivize maybe our local businesses to help bridge that gap a little more. And I just think there's always a new way to approach an old problem, and to a fresh set of ideas and a fresh perspective might be the injection of energy we need to support our schools more fully.
If I could just add that the foundation has taken over the role of being the business to school liaison, together helping education, and I'm happy that I've been endorsed by all board members.
Thank you very much, Betsy.
Okay, I'm going to ask number 6, and we are not going to have an open discussion after this question. Personality and candidate accessibility are key components in politics. In that vein, we'd like to know what your favorite movie, book, or TV show is and why.
Now I see why you asked that question.
Movie,
Wow.
book, or TV show.
And we're going to start with David.
Oh.
How long do I have for this question?
1 minute.
Okay. Oh, that's tough. We're talking about someone who's spent a lot of time in his youth reading. More often than not now when I get to read, it's having to do with the law or something to do with city council. So that may not be the best use of my reading time. TV and movies, I think I've loved. I think one of the, I'll take one of the most recent movies I've seen, which I enjoyed thoroughly. Others didn't. I did. It was Lincoln. I thought it was great. I actually sat there watching it, looking at the change in time and maybe not the change in time of our political system, looking at the change in party affiliations, and I happen to love history. I was a history major at UCLA. So for me, that was an excellent movie, and also perfect timing given the nature of things we're going through and we're here about today. The idea of public elections and free speech, and certainly a good movie.
Thank you. Mary Sue.
A film is a hard one for me to choose. I'm a film buff. One of my first jobs right out of college was working for Z Channel, one of the original film channels in Los Angeles. And I am obsessed right now with Scandinavian films. I think they're the finest films made in the world right now. And I also enjoy Korean horror films. I think they're wonderful. And so I love Netflix because it offers me the wide range of movies. My favorite TV show is The Office, and only because it's so funny, and it makes me smile a lot. So, and a book, gosh, I haven't. Okay, I can't. I'll think about that some more.
Jody.
Well, I've been working in the entertainment industry for the past 30 years, and I especially love TV shows and movies that pay me. But I do have some favorites. I'm a sucker for the underdog movies, you know, where the underdogs prevail at the end of the day. And given my position in this election, that stands to reason, doesn't it? But Miracle on 34th Street is one of my favorite movies. And there's a quote from there that it's one of my go-to quotes, and it says that faith is believing when common sense tells you not to. And I have a lot of faith in the city of Calabasas and a lot of faith in the residents. And I look forward to having the opportunity to serve us and to make our community great long into the future.
James.
Well, this is kind of an easy one for me. The author, of course, anyone who knows me, J.R.R. Tolkien, and The Lord of the Rings, my favorite movie series. As far as a television series, there are two, and I couldn't narrow it down any further. The first one is Columbo. And I must tell you, people wonder why. It's because he's a little bit like me. He's kind of like, well, he's a little bit sloppy, and off camera, I'm a little bit like that. He also is very unassuming, and he's always underestimated. He works so hard, and people underestimate him, and at the very end, that's how he nabs his victories. So I would say Columbo would be up there. Also, The Twilight Zone. I look forward to, and those aren't like high-quality productions or expensive productions, but those have just aged so well with time. I love those Twilight Zone episodes, and I enjoy watching the Twilight Zone marathon. So don't disturb me on New Year's Eve or 4th of July, because that's what I'm doing.
All right, candidates, we're going to continue with question number 7, and Mary Sue will have the first response. Supporting the Las Virgenes School District has been an ongoing effort of the city. The 10-year joint use agreement for use of gyms and fields on nights and weekends is close to expiring. If elected or re-elected, would you be in favor of continuing the city-school partnership?
I think the joint use agreement between the City of Calabasas and the school district has been tremendously successful. And how it works is that the city gets the facilities, the gymnasiums and the fields after school and on weekends, and books them. Our youth and adult recreational programs are just so popular because of this, and it's been a success for the school district as well, because we take care of the facilities and the fields and they get some money. And it's been very successful for a number of nonprofits, so I would highly recommend that we continue this very winning partnership.
Jody?
I can't imagine anyone that would be against the joint use agreement. It has served us well as a community. It's important that we look for ways to collaborate together and work together to make our community great. And the joint use agreement has benefited every one of us, I believe.
James.
This was something the school district came to our council with in 2003, 2004 when I was mayor. And the impetus for it was as follows. It's a win-win situation. The city paid all of the money for the 10 years up front because the school district was in dire need of the money. And we got a guarantee of 10 years of service at a discounted rate because of it. It really worked out well. I think everyone in the community benefits from it, and the school district got the money it needed to make it through that year without cutting programs. So I would absolutely be in favor of redoing the joint use agreement.
David?
As I said earlier, I was involved at the very beginning of the inception of this agreement. I was a member of the Agoura Hills Calabasas Community Center at that time, discussing this at that point with Ed Cordori, who I believe was then mayor or mayor pro tem of Agoura Hills, talking about the idea as a representative of Calabasas, someone who coached a lot of youth sports, someone who had to go to Woodland Hills Sunrise Little League to coach there because our fields didn't allow it, someone who had to go to Pierce to coach soccer because we didn't have the fields. So part of my impetus and desire was to make certain that we had in our community better fields, better facilities. Obviously, the council decided it, and I am 100% behind it, 100% obviously to continue it and hopefully expand it in some ways.
David, thank you. Again, we're going to open this up for 3 minutes of comments or questions, and if you feel the need to revisit, since we only have one more question after this, some of your points from other questions, feel free. The 3 minutes is yours.
Well, the point here, I think, is the point of the question should be flexibility. And that means having a council that's creative in meeting the needs of the school district. There have been many occasions when the school districts come to us with very specific proposals. And as I think back on it, the joint use agreement is probably the most significant one. The council's always supported school bond measures. There have been 5 since I've been on the council. I've supported all of them. I was a ballot signatory on 3 of them. And the reason, if you think those aren't important, you should go look at the new Performing Arts Center that opened up at Calabasas High School. It is one of the crown jewels of the school district, and it's something that you won't find in other school districts because they don't have a community that supports their schools like we do. I'm very proud of our community for not only just the council backing it, but for the community urging the council to back it and supporting the council's decisions over the years. It's very important, and if you re-elect me, I have a long track record of support for these kinds of things.
Just to continue with the Performing Arts Center, my daughter was a musician and in the youth orchestras and the wind ensemble, and the quality of that music education that and the arts in general that we afford our children is critical and detrimental to the future of our kids and our city as a whole. And now those specific art or performing arts centers that are there now need to be supported because they're there, and it's a big imposing structure, but it can absolutely be a benefit to the community for all ages and all members and residents of the community. And I look forward to supporting that wholeheartedly and bringing more opportunities to advance the arts into the city.
I had the opportunity, as many of us did, to visit the opening of the Performing Arts Center, and I was lucky enough to enjoy a performance there. And I happen to go to, or used to go to a lot more, to music, to theater, anything as far as the entertainment goes. The best pleasure was to hear my own daughter play there last Saturday morning and hear the perfect sound. I mean, we heard a baby say goodbye-bye on the way out, and the whole place stopped because the sound is, it's built, and it's built for many, many, many future generations, hopefully.
And I'll just add that I think we're in agreement up here that the Performing Arts Center at Calabasas High School is something that's very exciting for our community, and I look forward to exploring ways that our city can partner in bringing different performances to the center.
All right, thank you very much. We've come to our last question before our closing statements, and we will begin with Jody. The question is, the city of Calabasas was formed in order to control its own destiny. What do you see as its destiny?
The city of Calabasas, I was here at the beginning of cityhood, and I actively participated in many aspects of our infancy of a cityhood. We became a city so that we could evaluate and participate in our own destiny. And and that destiny at the time was to be a small town and to foster our community as a community. And our destiny, I see, is that we respond to the needs of the residents, that every resident is heard, that we embrace the voice of our residents, that we protect the unique characters of our communities and our neighborhoods because they are diverse. They're not all the same. We're not a cookie-cutter community. And we need to embrace all aspects of our residences and protect the individuality and small-town community flair and the quality of life that we cherish in Calabasas.
Thank you, Jody. James?
I believe the reason that we incorporated was clearly to have local control over the decision-making process. Unfortunately, we were the last city in Los Angeles County. We're number 88 out of 88 to incorporate, which means that a lot of the city was built out and a lot of the development was already planned prior to incorporation. One thing the city has always done, which I think is key to our survival, is to try to maintain the semi-rural quality of life and the small town atmosphere that a small city has. We have a large landmass. We're almost 14 square miles, but we're one of the most sparsely populated cities in Los Angeles County. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens through planned, slow growth measures that I've always supported, and the council has generally been supportive of as well. I think that looking forward in the future, the city is largely built out, fortunately. We don't have too many land use battles ahead, but end of time.
Thank you. David.
I would say one of the great things about our community, as we mentioned, is our schools. We are a diverse population, diverse communities amongst our city, which we've talked about. We have the commons. We have the national parks in our backyard. We have lots of amazing opportunities for our citizens. I think in order to maintain the great city that we have, and I'm one who enjoys and appreciates all the things the city does provide its community, and our community, is to maintain a careful budget and to watch out for our finances, make certain that we are increasing revenues where we can from our existing businesses so that we can maintain this high standard that we have for our citizens, for our entire citizenry. As James mentioned, we are the last and we are an independent city. One of the things that we did that is important is we separated from the county library system, and we have this amazing library which we call our own. I think that is vital as well.
Mary Sue?
I think that this council and previous councils have done an excellent job in setting its own destiny, and a destiny that the founders envisioned. And the fact that the founders have endorsed myself and others tells me that we've done a good job. Their vision was of a city of controlled growth and stopping overdevelopment. And we're nearly built out, but the developments that we have approved have been meaningful to our community, to include primarily senior housing. We also have maintained a small town feel. Half of our city borders the city of Los Angeles, and the other half of our city borders national and state parklands. And it's such an opposite, but we are able to go downtown into Los Angeles and experience the arts and yet hike on the weekends. We're very lucky, and I do think that we have fulfilled the destiny of our founders.
Mary Sue, thanks. That's the last of our 8 questions. This is your last 3-minute discussion period to talk about this last question or anything you guys want to clear up before we go to closing statements.
I think that sometimes something that's lost in the discussion is that despite the problems that the city's had, and every city has its problems, you know, I served as president of the California Contract Cities Association last year and got a chance to visit many cities up and down the state. And I can tell you, the problems we have here are minuscule, minor, compared to the serious problems that other cities have. Cities that are going to go bankrupt, cities that have cut services to the bone, cities that have corruption in them, cities where the council members wind up going to jail, the entire city council. We don't have that here. Racial animosity that interferes with city government in such a way that business can't get done. Gang warfare, crime rates escalating. We don't have that here. The problems we have are very workable, and I hope that whomever you elect, that they take these things seriously but put them in perspective.
I would just say, as far as I'm concerned, an important part of being a council member is communicating with and considering all aspects of the community. One of the very first things that we did when I became a council member in January last year was we voted to overturn the OWTS ordinance. That was something that was an ordinance and law that was placed into being by prior council, and I'm sure it was well intended, but the public and the council made a determination after a lot of consideration and careful thought that was not something that belonged in our community at this time. I think we live in a great, as I said, a great city, an incredible community, and the only thing we can do is hopefully as a group make it better.
Case in point on the OWTS, I just wanted to say that council has not always supported preserving our rural communities. But we do have a high standard, and I think it's important that we maintain that high standard, and we are vigilant in the development that does and will in the future occur. How is Calabasas going to look 10 years from now, 20 years from now? Those decisions that we make today will greatly affect how Calabasas looks in the future. And we have to be sure that we maintain a quality of development over a quantity of development.
That's it? Okay. All right, each candidate's going to have 2 minutes for their closing statements, and we are going to start with Jody Thomas.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming tonight and for affording me the opportunity to introduce myself and to let you see the values that I hope to bring to our city council. Choice is the cornerstone of democracy. My track record of more than 20 years of experience and community involvement from that other side of the dais shows that I always have and continue to represent the voice of the people. If I hadn't decided to run in this election, there would be no election. If I'd been scared off by the fear of running against 2 incumbents and an appointee, then there would not have been an election, and we would have been handing over the seat of an elected official to someone who'd never been elected. I've authored the Right to Vote Initiative and Term Limits Initiative because I believe it is essential to protect and preserve democracy in our city for now and the future, and not lose sight of the power of the voters to choose how we want to shape our city. It belongs to us. All this, and I'm not an elected official, I'm a resident, just like you, standing up for our rights and protecting our voice. We have a lot of talent in our community, and we should encourage more involvement, not discourage it. So thank you for considering me, and I hope that on March 1st, I will be your choice to protect, or March 5th, I'm sorry, March 5th. I hope I'll be your choice to protect your voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Mary Sue Maurer.
How about if they vote for you on March 6th? I wanted to, again, thank the Center for Governmental Studies, Betsy and Pablo. I think this is a tremendous service. Anything you can do to increase voter turnout, because we have a sad record of voter participation. And I think that's a symbol of how happy people are. I mean, when you're satisfied, you become complacent. So I would like to leave a message to those watching to please turn out and vote so that we can have greater participation. I'm very, very proud of the 8 years that I have served on the City Council. I think that during this time, we survived a very challenging, turbulent economy. Unlike other cities that were laying off or filing for bankruptcy, we were smart. And during those 8 years, early on when the boom times were there, we were putting money away. As an economics teacher, I'm well aware of how things cycle. And during this tenure also, Calabasas, you can't be anywhere in California or out of the state or even internationally and you say the word Calabasas and people have heard of it and they know about it. I'm proud not only of maintaining our services and our high credit rating, I'm proud of our support of our schools. There's no stronger partnership of a city and school district than here in Calabasas. I'm proud of my advocacy for open space as an advisory committee member to the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy and my record on environmental legislation. I'm also very proud of the work that I so want to embark on with our seniors, making this a multi-generational community where people come, raise their children, retire, and age in place. And so I hope that you'll consider me for the next 4 years as your council member. Thank you.
Thank you. David Shapiro.
Thank you also for putting on this excellent forum and for CTV for providing it to the public as well. As I indicated, my family and I moved here in 1994. 3 children have all attended the public school system. We moved here originally for this top-notch schools and the quality of life. Those still remain top priorities to me. My background has been someone who has volunteered all his life, not just in the 19 years here. 19 years of being here, I have volunteered in any way possible. This first and second Civic Center Design Review Task Forces, which helped develop and design the wonderful Civic Center, which we now call home. the Park and Recreation Commission, where I helped build and develop Grape Arbor, Gates Canyon, and Wild Walnut Parks, along with spearheading the joint use agreement, which we previously discussed. I also served on the Library Commission, which has its own independent budget, and I was very careful and fiscally responsible on that. I've served in my professional career as a mediator, volunteer mediator, in hundreds of cases, which has given me the ability to listen to all sides of an argument, all sides of a question, read, understand, and make a rational decision. I believe, along with my hard work, dedication, my being prepared this year as a council member, asking questions of staff and others before going on the dais on a city council, along with my ability to understand and look at all sides of a question, is something I carried with me this year. This past year I got to work on the budget. I've worked on the school safety, been the school site safety liaison, worked with the PFCs. I'm a member of the senior task force, captain of the Relay for Life, beginning a program with Mitch and Julie Richmond known as MROC Life for Troubled Teens. The future, I want to work on the budget. I want to be a very strong proponent for the community, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve you. I look forward to 4 more years.
Thank you, David. James?
Let me try to encapsulate what I think are my major achievements in the last 16 years. My contribution to the city's fiscal conservatism, which led to us receiving the highest possible credit rating of AA+ for a city of our size. Seeing through the Calabasas Civic Center construction from the day in 1999 when I signed to purchase this site to the day I helped cut the ribbon in 2008 and going to Sacramento and getting the $8.2 million library grant. My authorship of the Calabasas Open Space Initiative, which was overwhelmingly approved by Calabasas voters in 2005, my authorship of the Calabasas Historic Preservation Ordinance, which worked in conjunction with that, which was passed unanimously by the council in 2008. My founding of the Calabasas Teen Court Diversion Program, which has helped hundreds of troubled youth. I started it with the help of others in 1997 and now serve as the primary judge and still am part of the process. My support of the school district through bond measures, through joint use agreements and other funding, the construction of and completion and dedication of 6 parks and recreational facilities, the opening of the Commons in Calabasas Park, and the opening of Creekside Village in the Lost Hills area, and my activism with the Calabasas Chamber of Commerce. The purchase of Amundsen Ranch, which the city fought in 2003, and the purchase of King Gillette Ranch in 2005. These are by outside state and federal agencies in 2005. And now the beginning of the process of the construction of the senior center. The thing I'm most proud of is my activism on behalf of the citizens. My active participation in homeowners association meetings, which I attend regularly, community events, which I participate in, and most of all, my perfect attendance record at city council meetings. In 16 years, I've never missed a city council meeting and never missed a vote. And believe me, there are times when obviously you don't feel up to it, but I'm there every time and participating.
Thank you very much, James. Betsy and I would like to thank each of the 4 candidates for appearing with us tonight and for your discussion on so many issues important to Calabasas voters. Let's give the candidates a round of applause. We'd also like to thank the City of Calabasas for hosting us in the Center for Governmental Studies. A couple of reminders: detailed election information is available on the Calabasas election website, including candidate statements, a Meet the Candidates interview program, polling place information, and replay times for this candidate forum. The last day to register to vote in the March 5th election is Tuesday, February 19th. Calabasas voters should have received sample ballots in the mail with vote-by-mail ballot applications on the back. Last day to request a vote-by-mail ballot is Tuesday, February 26th. Blank applications may also be obtained online or by calling 818-224-1661. For those voting in person on March 5th, polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. On election night, CTV will be providing live election coverage beginning at 8 p.m. when the polls close, and up-to-the-minute returns will also be available after 8 p.m. on the Calabasas website.
Thank you, Pablo, and thanks again to our candidates, our live audience, and to you watching at home. Good night, and remember to vote on March 5th.